House. Senator Conway-Walsh, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Minister, for coming into the House to discuss this important matter. I also want to thank you for your very genuine approach and your understanding, which is quite obvious, around supporting people with disabilities and ensuring people with disabilities have the rights that many of us enjoy. I do want to welcome the disability advocates and those with disabilities into the gallery today as well, and to thank them for their interest and all the work that they have done and continue to do on this matter. And naturally I want to thank John Dolan for what he has done, and many others, and Martin Conway. And indeed I'm very heartened to hear Martin, as somebody who's part of the government, explicitly saying that we need to put resources for not only people with disabilities but people who are vulnerable within our communities and within our societies before tax cuts for the wealthy. And I wish you well with that, and you have our full support. You can always join us if they don't do what you need them to do, Martin.
Thanks for the invitation.
I don't know about a record. I do want to, as well as all the advocates, I do want to recognise the parents of children with disabilities, because they're the people I meet every day, day in, day out, who also struggle so much and have to fight so hard on behalf of their children, and then fight so hard when their children becomes adults and people with intellectual disabilities and all of that. And I see it, and we have to address it, and we have a huge responsibility. And that is why I and my party, being Sinn Féin, welcome the ratification of the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, especially, as you said, Minister, on this happy day, which is World Down Syndrome Day. But we have long argued in the Oireachtas and outside it since 2007, when Ireland first signed the Convention, that it was needed to be ratified without delay. But this Convention provides a framework to promote, protect and ensure the rights of all people with disabilities, and promotes equal rights in all areas of life. And these are the basic fundamentals that should be afforded to any person in a decent and modern society, able-bodied, disabled or otherwise. While the ratification of the Convention is most welcome, as we have all said, I must stress it is only the first step, and I think you recognise that, Minister. The real measure of delivery of the rights that are contained in the Convention will be in its implementation, and indeed its timely and speedily implementation. We are fully conscious that a raft of legislation is needed to be introduced, amended or indeed enacted in order to afford the rights that are enshrined and provided for in this Convention. People with disabilities in Ireland has long suffered at the hands of not only this government but of successive governments. So the phrase "put your money where your mouth is particularly relevant when it comes to disability rights in Ireland. And I'd like that you have addressed the whole issue of personalised budgeting, Minister. And I think and I'd ask you maybe when you're coming back to maybe address what time that report will be done, because there's parents and there's people with disabilities who are hanging in there waiting for that report to be done and waiting for the personalised budgeting, because not only is this an issue of resources, we need to be able to track where the resources and the funding is going at the moment and where it has been going. We have to make sure that it gets to the people and the families, people with disabilities and their families as well, in order to improve their quality of life and to increase their access. And we cannot do that while we don't have transparency of exactly where the money is going to. In the budget 2018, there was little mention of the resources to implement the comprehensive employment strategy that you refer to for persons with disabilities. People on disability allowance were afforded the crumbs of the table, indeed, with the €5 increase per week. And the extra costs that are involved with people with disabilities, €5 a week just doesn't cut it. So the rights that are afforded in this Convention can only be delivered with the necessary immediate allocation, as you recognised, in terms of resources. This is especially relevant with regard to the ongoing preparation for the budget to 2019, and that's why this this is important to be discussing that here today, because as we prepare for the budget, what Martin has said there, what Senator Conway has said and what you've said yourself, there must be money ring-fenced, proper money ring-fenced, to make sure that this means something. The Convention will be rendered useless with status quo remaining without these additional resources, and I appeal to you not to let this situation arise and do not further fail our persons with disabilities. We all know too that the travel on public transport can be a nightmare for people with disabilities. The email that we all received indeed from the two avid campaigners regarding coming to Leinster House for the Dáil debate on this issue was the height of irony. In it, the sisters describe how they left Greystones in County Wicklow in their wheelchairs, got up at 4 p.m. Dart with no personal assistance to help them, and these are two women who have fought extremely hard for disability rights in Ireland, and when finally their day had come, they described the effort to be at Leinster House monumental. But this government have also shown or fail to show that they really care for children or indeed adults with disabilities. And I think that if this convention, the ratification of this convention, is to do anything, it means that I wanted to say to you, Minister, as well, around the respite care for people, because in a recent PQ obtained by Sinn Féin, it revealed that the number of overnight respites provided to children and adults with disabilities had in fact dropped by over 22,600 nights in the past 3 years. So we need to be straightforward and honest about what resources are there as well. An overnight respite is vitally important for allowing other responsibilities to be attended to, and for the running of a normal household where a valuable member has complex medical needs. There's much more I could say on this, Minister. I trust you that you're going to do the right thing around this, and that we are going to see real tangible changes, because the changes have to really matter to the people of all abilities, people with disabilities, and the funding has to go, it has to be provided, and it has to go where it's needed and where it's most deserved. Thank you.